The Phantom glided silently above Olympus Base, its cloaking field bending starlight as Major Angel Ghost. Mason peered through the cargo bay hatch at the ravaged colony below. Shattered domes glinted in the faint glow of emergency lights, their edges jagged from cracks drop pod impacts that had torn through the base days ago. Streets once bustling with civilian life now crawled with crimson-armored warriors, their heavy boots cracking pavement as they patrolled the overrun eastern quadrant. Smoke curled from smoldering labs, the air thick with the tang of burned alloy and defeat. But Ghost was here to turn that tide. Her battle suit hugged her frame, its matte black surface drinking in the dimness, HUD flickering with real-time data. 30 seconds until a gap in the crack's sensor sweeps, wind speed negligible, drop zone a debris-strewn breach 50 meters east. The cargo hold, where 200 hostages were penned, lay somewhere beneath this chaos, and she'd rip it open from the inside. Echo, chameleon coding, activate, she whispered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline spiking her pulse to 130. Initializing. 30 seconds of invisibility online. Echo's synthetic tone replied, a faint buzz prickling behind her eyes as the suit shimmered and vanished. She stepped off the ramp, the void swallowing her as she plummeted toward the breach, a twisted pile of girders and alloy slabs offering scant cover. Her augmented vision tracked the fall, muscles coiling with 5 times human reflexes honed through years of pain. At 15 meters, she triggered the microthrusters, a soft hiss of gas slowing her descent, HUD ticking. 24 seconds of cloak remaining. She landed in a crouch, silent as a shadow, the impact jarring her titanium-laced bones, but absorbed by her enhancements. Dust swirled around her boots, settling fast in the thin atmosphere, and she darted behind a toppled comm tower as a Crack's patrol stomped into view. 4 warriors, 50 meters north, their plasma rifles slung low, helms glinting under flickering lights. Her breath shallowed, HUD zooming to catch their guttural grunts, echo filtering. Perimeter secure. Thrall's quiet for now. A sensor drone hummed overhead, its red beam sweeping the wreckage. 6 seconds until it passed, her implants calculated. 18 seconds on cloak, Echo warned, recharge cycle looming. She held still, muscles tense like springs, then bolted as the beam swung west, crossing a stretch of open ground littered with charred crates. She slid behind a burned-out transport pod just as her invisibility flickered out at 10 seconds. Recharge, 1:50. 1:49. Her matte black form blending into the pod's shadow. The patrol drew closer, 30 meters now, their boots thudding rhythmically, one warrior kicking aside a child's scorched toy with a grunt. Earth filth, Echo translated. Ghost's jaw tightened, hand hovering over her wrist laser, but her reflexes kept her steady. Speed was her weapon, not rashness. The lead warrior paused, helm tilting as if sensing a ripple in the air, its amber eyes scanning the debris. Her pulse notched to 132, implants suppressing the spike. 5 times human speed could outrun them if it came to that. But it turned away, rejoining the squad with a dismissive growl. Echo, locate the maintenance hatch, she murmured, easing from cover as the patrol's red silhouettes faded on her HUD. Target acquired, 40 meters east beneath collapsed lab wall. Single infrared sensor, low grade, Echo replied, painting a green marker on her vision. A rusted panel tucked under rubble, her entry to the base's underbelly. She moved low and fast, dodging a tangle of exposed wiring and a slab of fallen dome, her suit's servos whispering with each step. The crawl space loomed ahead, tight and shadowed. She dropped to her knees, skidding under the overhang, dust coating her visor as the HUD filtered it clear. The hatch gleamed, its sensor blinking faintly. 5-meter range. Recommend pulse disable, Echo advised. She aimed her wrist, firing a low-energy blue flash. Silence followed as the light died. Her servos whirred, prying the panel open with a groan, revealing a dark tunnel snaking into Olympus Base's core. Toward the cargo hold, the hostages, and the cracks she'd dismantle piece by piece. The tunnel beneath Olympus Base swallowed Ghost whole, a narrow vein of rusted steel and flickering conduits threading through the colony's overrun heart. Her battle suit's servos adjusted with a faint whine, HUD casting a gray-green glow over damp walls as she crawled deeper, the air thick with the stench of burned circuits and stale fear. The cracks had turned this place into their stronghold, and somewhere ahead, past the hum of machinery and the echo of boots, 200 hostages waited in the cargo hold. She was their shadow, their blade, and she'd carve them free. Echo, start mapping, she whispered, her voice a thread in the tunnel's drone. Neural mapping initiated. Constructing 3D layout from sensor data and structural echoes, Echo replied, her HUD blooming with a wireframe schematic. Corridors twisting left, shafts climbing right, a pulsing node marking the cargo hold in the eastern quadrant. Her neural implants hummed, 5 times faster than human, stitching each junction into a mental grid as she advanced, every turn a step closer to her prey. The walls vibrated faintly, the base's power core thrumming somewhere west, a target she'd hit when the time was right. The tunnel widened into a junction, a crossroads of ducts bathed in the red flicker of an emergency light. Crack's handiwork, jury-rigged to their liking. Ghost crouched low, her suit's matte black surface blending into shadow as she peered through a ventilation grate into a corridor now claimed by the invaders. Steel walls bore scorch marks and glowing alien glyphs, a stark overlay on the base's original design. 2 Crack's warriors stood 30 meters down, their crimson armor scratched and imposing, plasma rifles resting in their claws, arrogant sentinels in a stolen domain. She edged closer, HUD zooming to sharpen the scene, audio pickups filtering their guttural exchange. Translating Crack's dialect, Echo processed, overlaying cold text. Cargo hold secure, thralls weakened by the hour. Vorthak demands compliance soon, or slaughter. Ghost's jaw tightened, her suit's servos twitching as she suppressed a surge of anger. 200 lives pinned under that threat. She studied their stance. One leaned against the wall, helm tilted lazily. The other gestured with a claw, crest flaring in what might have been a laugh. Overconfidence detected, Echo noted. Tactics prioritize intimidation over diligence. The warriors shifted, their rifles clanking as they turned down the corridor, boots fading into the hum. Ghost marked a vertical shaft above the grate. Route to cargo hold proximity, 20 meters up, Echo confirmed, and pried the slats loose with a servo-powered tug, the metal groaning faintly under her 1,000-kilo grip. She slipped through, pulling it shut behind her, and began the climb, maglocks clamping onto the shaft's walls with each precise step. Her HUD tracked her ascent, the map expanding, labs to the south, barracks north, the power core's heat signature pulsing stronger westward. Halfway up, another grate loomed, this one overlooking a cavernous chamber repurposed into a Crack's drill yard. Dozens of warriors marched below, their shields shimmering in brutal synchrony, claws slashing air in mock combat. Ghost froze, her breath shallow as one paused mid-step, its amber eyes flicking upward. Proximity alert, sensor sweep active, her HUD flared. She pressed flat against the shaft, heart ticking to 134, implants steadying her as the warrior's gaze lingered, then dropped, dismissing the flicker. Sweep cleared, Echo reported, and she resumed, muscles coiling with each silent grip. The shaft leveled into a maintenance hub, a cramped nest of tangled cables, blinking consoles, and the low drone of strained systems. Dust coated the floor, undisturbed until her boots left faint prints, and the air carried the sharp tang of ozone. The base's power core wasn't far, its strain feeding the Crack's occupation. A terminal glowed in the corner, its screen alive with scrolling glyphs, Crack's overlays on human tech. Ghost approached, HUD interfacing as Echo hacked in, bypassing security, accessing base surveillance logs. The screen flickered, stabilizing on a grainy feed. The cargo hold, a sprawling ground-level bay in the eastern quadrant, its chain-link pens caging 200 civilians. Faces flashed, pale, drawn, defiant. A child clinging to an elderly woman, a scientist in a torn coat staring blankly at the floor, for Crack's guards pacing with rifles slung low. Ghost's stomach nodded, her implants logging details. The child's trembling hands, the scientist's clenched jaw, the guard's casual swagger. Location confirmed, eastern quadrant, ground level. Security, for guards, 2 turrets, 10-minute patrol overlap. Echo detailed, painting the layout, crates for cover, a power conduit snaking beneath, exits to the west and south. She stepped back, the map solidifying, vents from here to the hold's edge, 40 meters southwest. The power core a detour 50 meters west, its sabotage a spark to ignite chaos. Her neural enhancements churned, plotting. Invisibility to slip past patrols, speed to hit the core, precision to free them. The Crack's thought this base was theirs, arrogant, sloppy, blind to the ghost in their walls. Echo, prep for the next move, she said, turning to a vent on the far wall. Options, direct to hold or power core diversion. Odds pending, Echo replied, her HUD glowing with paths. Ghost's mind tilted west. The core's disruption would scatter them, and she'd strike in the fallout. The ventilation shaft snaking through Olympus Base's eastern quadrant was a cold, steel coffin, its walls pressing tight as Major Angel Ghost Mason crouched above the cargo hold. Her battle suit hummed faintly, servos still as she peered through a slatted grate into the cavernous chamber below, a grim prison carved from the colony's ground level. 200 civilians huddled in chain-link pens, their faces etched with exhaustion and flickers of defiance under the harsh glare of flickering lights. For Crack's guards patrolled the hold, their crimson armor casting long shadows, rifles slung with the casual arrogance of conquerors who'd already won. Ghost shifted, her HUD sharpening the scene. The hostages' ragged breaths misted in the chill air, a child's small hands gripping an elderly woman's sleeve, a scientist's hollow eyes darting toward the grate as if sensing her unseen presence. The guards moved in a loose rhythm, 10-minute cycles, 40-second gaps, her implants calculated, their crimson helms glinting under emergency lights rigged by Crack's hands. She zoomed in. The roving guard's shield generator flickered, a maintenance lapse, another perched on a crate, barking a guttural order at a flinching civilian. "Quiet, Thrall." Echo translated, cold and precise. Overconfidence confirmed. Echo chimed in her mind, overlaying data. Guard posture lax. Patrol gaps extended post-course strain rumors. Stress detected in vocal patterns. The hostages stirred faintly, a ripple of whispers. Hope or fear, she couldn't tell. Cut short as a guard slammed a claw against the pen, metal ringing. Ghost's fists clenched, servos whining under her restraint. Her HUD tagged vulnerabilities. Neck joints exposed by sloppy stances, sensor nodes dulled by neglect, shield generators worn from over-reliance. For targets, 2 turrets, she could take them, but not yet. Her augmented vision shifted west, tracing the hold's layout on her HUD. A wide, open bay, crates stacked haphazardly along the edges, a maintenance hatch in the south corner leading deeper into the base. Beneath the floor, a power conduit pulsed red, its heat signature snaking 50 meters westward to the colony's power core. The beating heart of Olympus Base, now slave to Crack's control. She'd felt its thrum in the tunnels, seen its strain in the hub, a beast she could wound. Power core proximity, 50 meters. Sabotage viable. Cooling breach could trigger overload, disrupt base systems. Echo reported, her neural map glowing with the conduit's path. A plan snapped into focus, sharp and brutal. Hit the core, rupture its cooling, trip alarms, pull the guards west in the chaos. 30 seconds of invisibility to cross the hold, 5 times human speed to drop the stragglers, then lead the hostages south to the hangar pods, into space beyond Crack's reach. Risky, the core's overload might spark lockdowns, trap them, but the guards' sloppiness was her wedge. They strutted like kings on stolen ground, blind to the ghost in their walls. She watched the roving guard pause near the conduit's access panel, its back to the wall, oblivious to the power humming beneath. A perfect mark for her sabotage. The others lounged, one near the pens kicking debris, another by the entrance scanning lazily, shield dimmed to save power. Success odds, 70% with diversion, 45% without, Echo calculated, her HUD painting strike points in red, neck joints, generator housings, a turret's exposed wiring 20 meters north. "For guards, 2 turrets," she murmured, voice a steel whisper. "I've got this. Recommend core sabotage priority. Extraction window narrows post-alarm," Echo advised, syncing with her implants as they churned through scenarios. Ghost nodded, her mind already tracing the vent west. 10 meters to the core chamber, a quick breach, then back to the hold in the fallout. The Cracks thought this base unbreakable, their hostages tamed, but she'd turn their own power against them. Rip the heart out of their occupation and give these people a shot at the stars. Her gaze lingered on the hostages one last time, the scientist's eyes catching hers through the grate, a fleeting, desperate spark in his hollow stare. She couldn't promise him Earth's frigates, didn't know if they'd come, but she could promise this. Chaos, a chance, a fight. "Echo, set the core route," she said, easing back from the grate, her suit's servos coiling as she slid west. "Route locked, 10 meters ahead." "Prepare for engagement," Echo replied, a glowing line snaking through her HUD. The Cracks below strutted on, their overconfidence a ticking clock Ghost would shatter. She moved, a shadow poised to strike, the base's pulse her weapon.